Hi guys, this is Ollie from iwillteachyoualanguage.com. Now, you've all heard it before, the best way to learn a language, what is it? It's reading and listening to as much as you can. If you read enough books, if you listen to enough radio, TV, then you will eventually get brilliant at the language. Now this is the sort of advice that people who don't know anything about language learning will give you. And it's also the advice that people who do know a lot about language learning will give you. And it's very good advice. It relates to creating an immersion environment as well. If you don't live in the country itself, then surrounding yourself by books and listening material is the best way to learn a language, or so they say. Now, I think it is the best way to learn a language, ultimately. However, that doesn't help people who are just starting out. If you're a beginner in a language, you've got one basic problem, which is that you don't know enough words to be able to access this material in the first place. How can you read a book if you don't know any of the words inside? How can you listen to the radio or watch TV if you don't know any of the words? You can't. It's as simple as that. So, the question that always comes is, well, this is all very well. Okay, I want to read and read and listen as much as possible, but how do I do it if I'm a beginner? And then the next question is, well, how do I know when I'm ready to start creating all this input for myself from reading and listening? So I just want to talk a little bit about this because it's very, very important, and a lot of people, I suspect, get caught in a paralysis by analysis type situation where they're thinking, okay, I want to be reading, I want to be listening, but how do I get there, and what's the best way? Let's look at some videos on YouTube, let's read some books, and then before you know it, you've spent such a long time searching for the best method that you could have spent that time doing something else. The basic answer to this is you have to develop a core of vocabulary. You need to know a lot of words and phrases before you can access this kind of material. That's, in my view, indisputable. So the question then becomes, how can you generate this core of vocabulary in the shortest time possible? And luckily for beginners in most languages, and probably all languages, or majority languages at least, you've got an awful lot of material out there. You've got these teach-yourself type books, you've got podcasts and online resources. My view is that any of that stuff is probably okay, providing it comes with audio, so you can listen to the language, and text, so that you can follow along. You must be able to listen and to read at the same time. Now, most of these resources are going to give you language in a structured fashion. They're going to introduce words and phrases step by step, from one lesson or one podcast to the next. And so, you could do a lot worse than just finding a book, teach-yourself type series, an audio course or a podcast course that you like, that seems interesting, you think you could work with for a couple of months, and just work your way through that. You need to form the base, and you may as well use the resources that are available. There's no point diving straight into newspapers and radio. You're wasting your time. It costs a bit of money. You're going to have to buy a decent book, which could be, they're not cheap, some of these books, or you might have to sign up to a podcast, website kind of combination, but it's money well spent, and it's probably not a great deal of money. It's usually about the price of a nice meal. So when you think of it like that, it's worth the investment. Now, the only way that I qualify all of that is by saying that whatever the program is that you choose to use, whether it's a book or a podcast, you need to probably not necessarily focus on the exact method and step-by-step activities that they suggest. That's probably not the best use of time. what I do and what I would suggest that you do is exploit all of the lesson material, the dialogues or whatever there are. It's usually dialogue based, these products. Exploit them, identify the vocabulary, and then learn that vocabulary. I personally use a spaced repetition system. I use an app on my phone. Any new vocabulary that I think is interesting and relevant, I'll capture that on my SRS app, and then I'll put most of my efforts in the first couple of months into learning as much of that vocabulary as possible. So that is the system. It's a system, and it's an efficient system. You're not beating around the bush. You're finding a source of language that is comprehensible, that's accessible, and then you're capturing it and you're focusing on vocabulary learning. I think this is the best way for a beginner to build their vocabulary core. Now, the next part of this is the question, well, when am I ready to start kind of listening and reading en masse? When am I ready to start my immersion environment? Basically, when am I ready to start focusing on input? And the only possible answer to that question is as soon as possible. There's no reason why you shouldn't do you shouldn't access material that you enjoy right from the beginning. In fact, it would seem quite illogical that you wouldn't do that if that's what you're interested in. So, for example, if you are particularly keen on manga, Japanese comics, then get manga, get them in, get on Amazon, spend some money, get them in, start reading them, start looking through them. If you're quite keen on speaking, if you're a sort of very social person, you like that interaction with people, then from the beginning, find a language partner and start meeting them and start trying to speak right from the beginning. You need to start the input and the immersion as soon as possible. And the only thing that you need to know in order to do that is, well, what's your goal and what do you enjoy? Once you know that, then start. Don't wait, just start. But do not do that at the expense of your vocabulary learning. This is the key point. In the first few weeks or months, depending on the language that you're learning, by all means, dive into the stuff you're interested in, but your main focus at the beginning is building up your vocabulary. So make this part of your routine, make this what you focus on every day, and then the stuff that you enjoy, that's for your downtime. That's for late in the evening when you're tired, can't focus on much else, then you can get involved in that stuff. I can really relate to this problem right now because I'm learning Cantonese, and I'm really having trouble accessing this material for reading and for listening because it's a really tough language, and all of the vocabulary in Cantonese is completely different from any other language, and so I'm really having to focus all my attention on vocabulary building, and it's a long, hard slog. There's nothing easy about this. I think I'm probably going to be at it for a good 3 months before I'm able to start accessing the kind of material that I want. In my case, it's about speaking. I love speaking. I'm a people person. I like to interaction with other people in the language is my ultimate goal. So that's what I'm aiming for, and I've already started doing that right from the beginning. I'm meeting people, and I'm finding a language partner, and I'm starting to produce language. That's what I like. It might be very different for you. A lot of people don't do that. So I can really relate to this problem, and having gone through it, having been going through it myself at the moment, I'm more and more convinced that you have to focus all of your attention, as I've said many times already in the video, on building that vocabulary core. So focus on that, keep at it for a good couple of months, and good luck with it. You can, if you're interested in following my progress in Cantonese, there are videos on the website, iwillteachyourlanguage.com. And if you like this video, please don't hesitate to tweet a link to it or post a link to Facebook. I'd really appreciate it. It would really help me out. And good luck!